Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Love Wrestling. It's a beautiful day in Edmonton, Alberta. It's a beautiful day for professional wrestling, and it's a beautiful day to be talking to a second-generation superstar, the #1 contender for the MLW National Openweight Champion, a guy on the precipice of a dream match. Let's just get that out of the way. Colby Corino joining me, dude. It is great to have you on. Thanks for taking time for me. Like I said, so close to a major pay-per-view, a major match for yourself, but we'll get to that in a second. How are you doing, man? Good morning.
I'm doing well, Spencer. Thank you for having me on. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I always appreciate the platform.
Man, the thanks is all mine. I was excited as soon as I got told that I was going to be chatting with you to really pick your brain. You talked about Davey Richards. There's certainly one other dream match that recently happened that I'm going to get into here in a couple of seconds. But let's just talk about your mindset heading into hard times in New Orleans. You've been a pretty consistent member of the National Wrestling Alliance for about the last year and a half. How have you felt you've adapted, and why are you so excited for the upcoming pay-per-view?
So, as you said, I've been around the NWA for like the past year and a half. I started there June 2021, and I've been on every show since then. It's been an amazing experience for me. I love working for the NWA, and this match actually came about because I was doing a Q&A with Billy Corgan, like one of the meet and greets before for fans and stuff. And a question that was asked me was what my dream match was, and obviously I said it was Davey Richards, and Davey actually saw that. And he personally asked Billy for this match. So
Cool.
that's not only is it a dream match for me, but the person I'm in the dream match with asked for the match. And I think that makes it like a little bit even more cool and special for me.
How cool is that to hear from a guy like Davey Richards? I was listening before we started this to an interview you did with the Matman podcast, and you talked about him not only being a dream opponent, but quite literally one of the reasons that you got into professional wrestling. So how cool is that for you? And feel free to pump your tires. That's what this here is for. But how cool is that for you that the guy is specifically asking to work you?
It's awesome, man, because I've seen this dude have so many classics with Seth Rollins and Eddie Edwards and Roderick Strong. And it's just to think that like this guy that's had so many classic wrestling matches wants to put me to the test. I'm up for it, man. And like I've had a hell of a 2022, and I think I'm in the best shape of my life. I think I'm doing the best work of my life so far. And like in my mind, it's not that I just want to like emulate all these classic matches that I've seen him do, or I want to surpass them. I want to have the best match he's ever had, not just a good match that he's had, you know? So
Yeah.
I'm really putting it on myself to make this match something really special, not just for me, but for everyone watching it.
I really love the promo you put out a couple of days ago where you were talking about, like you say, all the dream matches he's had and likely will have in the future. But the one point you make was, I want them to have to talk about hard times in New Orleans. I thought that was just chef's kiss, man. Well done on that. Why specifically Davey Richards? He's maybe a guy that everybody knows is an incredible professional wrestler. Don't get me wrong there. But, you know, even the Matman guys brought it up. A lot of people will bring up your Stone Colds and your Rocks and sort of the apex of apexes, for lack of a better way to put it. What drew you to Davey Richards?
So like I'm sure a lot of people would pick the Bret Michael or the Bret Harts or the Shawn Michaels of the world as their favorite wrestlers. But like most of my life, I didn't watch wrestling on TV a lot of the time. Like I watched the Attitude Era when I was like 2 or 3 years old. But most of the time that I was around wrestling, my dad was on the Indies or in Japan. So that's the stuff that I was interested in. That's what I was watching. So I feel like I have a lot different of perspective on professional wrestling than most people do. Because like I've made it so far as a professional wrestler without watching like the most mainstream stuff. Like people are always like, "Did you see this Batista versus John Cena match from 2006?" I was like,
Nope.
"Never, man. Nope." I mean, I'm sure it's good. Like I go back and watch a lot of the stuff there, and I'm always surprised at how like I don't know why I should be surprised. It's a multi-million-dollar company with the best people in the world doing it, but I still get surprised when I go back and watch it. I'm like, wow, this stuff really was actually pretty good. But that's not what
Yeah.
I grew up watching. I grew up watching the people like Davey Richards and Roderick Strong beat the shit out of each other, and that's what I want from wrestling. Like the Davey Richards match is like the perfect encapsulation of what I think pro wrestling should be. It's aggressive, it's hard hitting, and it's everything that draws me into professional wrestling, and that's what I want people to get out of this match.
It feels like then the NWA really is the perfect spot for you right now, right? You talk about the tradition of professional wrestling, that real, sports combat feel, for lack of a better way to put it. Is that what initially drew you to them off the bat, or how did that process really start to join the National Wrestling Alliance?
Um, that wasn't really what drew me in. I think what really drew me in was the history and everything that came with the NWA. Like being an NWA champion is like it really means something. And just to be able to notch your name in those history books, to be that NWA champion, Colby Corino, like that really means something. Like I could go down the list of all the NWA junior heavyweight champions or the heavyweight champions, and it's just a star-studded who's who of wrestling.
Yeah.
But like as I started working for the NWA more, like I definitely noticed, like I always heard Billy be like, we work tight here in the NWA, we work hard, we did all this stuff. And I always felt like there was a slight disconnect between what I was doing in the ring and what a lot of the other people in the NWA were doing. But like the more that I watch and the more that I'm around NWA, I realize that it's like, even though I'm going a little faster, I'm doing a little bit more flips and stuff, that we all have the same like mantra of professional wrestling, that it needs to be hard hitting. It needs to be combat focused. It's a sport, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that's where the marriage is perfect.
How do you feel then challenging for maybe not an NWA championship in this match? Obviously, the MLW National Openweight Championship is a fairly new title held by some really great individuals, but maybe, well, obviously isn't a National Wrestling Alliance championship. Does that maybe change the approach a little bit? What are your feelings on that?
I think it's a cool feather in the cap of my hat, but like honestly, like the MLW title, it doesn't have that same prestige as the NWA. I'm not trying to belittle an MLW or anything, but like when you have names like Shinjiro Otani and Jushin Liger and Dory Funk Jr. in your previous champions list, like I'm always going to be gunning for that junior heavyweight champion. Like that's the belt that I feel like is mine,
Yeah.
and it's just I got to take it. So, and I'm going to at one point, at some point.
I can't wait to
Uh,
send that clip out as soon as you actually do. We'll be like, we called this a couple of years ago. We called this a couple of months ago, days ago, whenever it may be. You brought up Otani there, and it's not much of a question more than just asking for a story. But when I was going through and doing my prep, your dad did an interview a few years ago where he was talking about a father-son moment you guys had for 0-1 wrestling with him and Tanaka. And I was wondering if maybe you had some memories of that, remembered it at all, frankly. But if you could maybe share that story.
oh yeah, so I was a little young. I think I was 6 years old at the time, so my memory is a little scattered. But I've had this story retold to me by my dad so many times.
Mm-hmm.
It was him and Tom Howard versus Masato Tanaka and Shinjiro Otani for 0-1. And it was a tag match, and I just remembered that they beat up my dad for the finish, like and like my dad took the pin and everything, and it just made me really mad. So I slid in the ring because I was ringside with my dad. I slid in the ring just to make sure he was okay, and I don't know what got into me, but I just looked at Tanaka and I punched him, and he bumped for it. And then like I was like, all right, this is what we're doing. Here comes Otani. I bump him, and then they're selling for me, and then next thing I know, I'm chasing him to the back, and apparently what my dad's like freaking out, like he's like, oh my god, like he's gonna my kid just got me fired, like we're never gonna come back here again. And he was so worried, and like he goes up to me, he's like, why did you do that? And apparently I just told him that Tanaka gave me the eye. But it ended up being like no one was upset about it. Like it ended up being a really cool moment. Like the office was super, like they loved it too. And
Yeah.
it's wild that clip still floats around some 20 years. Oh my god, 20 years later. Holy
Right.
hell.
Isn't that nuts? And even for me, it's a bit of an odd way to put it, but is that surreal for you how young you really were getting involved in professional wrestling? Obviously, a lot of second generation individuals have started training maybe a little bit earlier than most, but like you were quite in there. I think you said that you went to your first pro wrestling show at like 3 weeks old. Isn't that nuts to you?
Yeah. But to be fair, I broke that record with my son. I brought him to his first wrestling show at 2 weeks old. Uh,
Nicely done.
but again, on the flip side of that, I look at my son who's 3.5, and I also think that at 4 years old, I wrestled my first wrestling match, like in my own tights in a tag match with my dad. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, I don't know if you could do that. Jeez.
So maybe not a couple of weeks or months from now, but say your son comes up to you in the near future, the eventual future, and says that they want to get into professional wrestling. What's your first reaction when you hear that?
Whew. You sure you don't want to be like a referee or something where you don't have to fall down and get hit as much?
Great answer. Really great answer. Obviously, with the family ties in professional wrestling, everybody's talked about your dad a ton, and rightfully so. But let's talk about your aunt for a bit. A couple of weeks ago, and I talked about a dream match earlier. I think it was a lot of people's dream to have Allison Danger back in the ring. Finally happened on October 27th. What was the process there? How are you finally the one to be able to say, all right, it's time, get back in the ring, let's do this, let's pump it up, and successfully make it happen?
So it was definitely a process because I like to do a show every year for like usually my birthday. And last year I got to wrestle my dad for my birthday show. And this year, sorry, NWA was running NWA 74 on my birthday weekend. So I couldn't really do it that weekend. So I was just like, oh man, I'm just gonna do a show whenever. And after I have a match like me versus my dad, like I can't just follow up with something that's like lesser than that. So I really had to like dig down deep. So of course I asked my dad again, and I was like, hey, can we do another match? And he said no. He said he couldn't get it cleared this time. But this so I started bugging my aunt, and she said no too. So I started bugging her more and more and more. And I guess she just eventually agreed to shut me up. And yeah, so but she ended up having fun and ended up being a good time for her. But yeah, like I just bugged the shit out of her. Really. I was just like, come on, just do one match. Like we could team together. Like I'll do all the work. You don't even have to do anything. You don't even have to step in the ring. You don't even have to tag in at all. I was
throw a couple elbows on the apron and you're good to go.
Oh yeah, they were all total lies anyway. I mean, I definitely made her get in the ring and do most of the work, but
you knew what you were doing. You were taking that first step for the eventual 50th step. I also want to ask about your opponents, the Kirks, because I'm a huge Casey Catal fan. Obviously, Brandon as well is fantastic. Why specifically did you want to get in the ring with those two for the return for Allison Danger?
So I've been having like a feud on the indies with Brandon Kirk and Casey Kirk for like the past like year or so, and Brandon specifically never shuts up about my dad, even though he knows this match is never going to happen. I got to tell him constantly, this match is not happening for you. But I figured like that maybe if I threw him a bone with someone in the Corino family, he could shut up for a little bit. And also because honestly, I've worked them a bunch of times, and I knew that they're not going to really hurt my aunt. And you know, they're safe, they're reliable workers, and they're a real mixed tag team. So like because when me and my aunt are teaming up, I don't just want to wrestle just anybody. I want to wrestle someone that like is also a team, you know? Even though we've never teamed before. So maybe the husband-wife dynamic is similar to the nephew-aunt dynamic, and I figured it matched up very well.
The question has to be asked then, Colby. You've wrestled with your aunt, you've wrestled your dad. Who's the guest for the birthday show next year?
Hey, you're hearing it right here first. Here's the trick. Here's the hot scoop. I'm working on getting Aries from my aunt's husband, but that one's looking even harder than my aunt.
You had to start bugging a little bit earlier on that one, hey?
Yeah. I already started bugging him through my aunt, being like, hey, can you ask him? Just one more match. Just one more.
Just one more. That's so cool, man. Very, very exciting things, obviously, in the past on the horizon. And recently you announced that you're going to be the subject of the Life of IWTV's series. I believe December 1st that launches. How did that happen? How excited are you for that to come out? Because it's a very different sort of backstage segment or interview segment than you'd really see anywhere else. So take me a little bit through that.
I am super nervous for it to come out. Like I'm super excited, don't get me wrong, but I'm very nervous too because I really like go into a lot of the darker parts of my life, like my history and stuff, and I really just go into what wrestling really is for me. It's like it's a very personal piece, and like I really it's everything I've wanted to tell people in wrestling that I couldn't do in a wrestling ring. So I'm very happy that it's coming out. And I'll give you another hot scoop here. It's actually a two-parter episode because they couldn't fit it all into one. So both episodes are getting dropped in December.
Very excited for those. Very excited for those.
That it came about because Eric Royal, who did the one of the first Life ofs, he was I saw him at AML Wrestling in North Carolina, and I was like, oh, what do you got that GoPro for? What are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm doing the IWTV the Life of thing. And I look dead in that camera. I go, Jerry, you better give me one of these cameras because I want to make one of these. And about 6 months later, the editor for the Life of comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, I saw your message in Eric's TLO, and we want to give you a camera." I was like, "Awesome!" It actually worked. So I was surprised
Manifesting, I think, is the common word out there that people are throwing around on Instagram for stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's the buzzword today. Manifest.
Exactly. You see it over a graphic of clouds or something like that going through the IG feed, right? I think it's very, very cool. Live, laugh, love, manifesting. I really do love it. And I obviously don't want to pry too much on it, but is it hard for you to be that open with stuff and do a series like The Life of? You're coming up on a fairly important 6-year anniversary as far as it goes. How hard is it for you to be that open?
I don't think it's very hard for me to be open like when I'm talking about like when we sit here and we're talking like I'm sure I could answer any question that you have about it, but also I don't feel like I can just shoehorn it into every public appearance that I make. Most of the time I'm in a wrestling ring getting ready to beat up or get beat up, or if you do see me on the mic, I'm mostly shit talking someone or trying to pump myself up. I'm rarely trying to tell you my whole life story and all the nitty gritty of it. So it's just about like an opportunity that I feel like I haven't really been able to show that side of me, or like the like how I think about everything and like the personal sides of it all, and versus what you just see the loudmouth, obnoxious kid on, or I guess I'm not a kid anymore, especially with the stash, the loud ass, obnoxious man on your TV screens.
You can't be that obnoxious with a mustache like that. You really can't
What?
be. Or like
Exactly.
the most
That's
obnoxious.
why I tell people all the time.
I love it, man. Now, before we close her out, I do have to obviously ask on the hot topic in the professional wrestling world right now with the National Wrestling Alliance and everything maybe going down with Nick Aldis and Billy Corgan and everything in between. So do you maybe have a comment, a thought, anything in between? Go tell me to fuck myself, whatever it might be, if you don't want to answer. But obviously got to ask on that end of things too.
I'm not a very controversial person, but I'll give you a little bit of my input. I NWA's treated me very, very well my whole time that I've been there. Not only financially, but like just the respect. There's a lot of respect I feel that's given to me that I don't get given a lot of other places. That when I travel on the indies, I like, and not just respect for my peers, but like respect from the management and stuff that I get brought ideas and I get asked about them. I don't get told what I'm doing. I like it's there's a lot to the NWA, and I don't exactly agree with going publicly and shitting on them. I feel like there's you can work behind the scenes and you can try to correct what you can, and sometimes that's not always going to work out. Everyone's got different ideas of things. I don't always agree with what Billy does, and he doesn't agree with everything I do. That's 100% okay, you know. But
Yeah.
I think it's a different level to go on social media and start airing out dirty laundry for everyone else to see, because they don't have the whole story too. Like, you can't feel bad for someone that you walk down on the street that you see getting beat up, because you don't know if they deserve to get beat up. Like, they might have did something right before you walked up that they deserve it, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of context that's missing when you put your business out on social media. Like, you're only going to show the things that and say the things that help your story, you know?
Yeah. Truth's always somewhere in the middle, so to speak.
Exactly. The truth is always somewhere in the middle. That could be the big headline for Colby Corino.
New merchandise ideas. You know what? I won't even take a cut on that end of things. We can have that one for free. We'll close her out on a positive, Colby. You are challenging Davey Richards in a dream matchup in just 3 days' time at the time that we're recording this, taking him on at Hard Times in New Orleans. Give me some final thoughts. Give me some final words, maybe for me or for Davey Richards before we close her out here.
Man, I can't tell you the last time I've been this excited for a wrestling match. Like, I wrestle every weekend, multiple times a weekend. 52 weeks a year, every year for the past 13 years, more than half my life. And I have never been more excited for a match than this. I've never worked so hard for a match. I've been in the gym every day or every day possible that since this match has been announced. I'm in the best shape possible. I've been doing so much cardio. I am ready to get beat up, and I am ready to beat Davey up. So no matter what happens, I'm going to make sure that this match is one of the most memorable Colby Corino matches you've ever seen, and definitely one of the most memorable Davey Richards matches you've ever seen.
Well, all due respect to Davey Richards, but here's hoping on my end on Sunday morning. I wake up, I've got to change the title of this here little interview that I put out with Colby Corino to an interview with the MLW National Openweight Champion, Colby Corino. Of course, you can check out Hard Times in New Orleans on November 12th. Make sure you get your fix of professional wrestling involving great individuals like, of course, Colby Corino. If you don't want to tune in on the 12th, shame on you, number one. But Colby, where can people keep up to date with the latest and greatest before, after, and during the dream match with Davey?
Obviously, follow at NWA on all social media platforms. But while you're there, you can also, while you're on Twitter, you can go at Colby Corino. That is me. You're on Instagram, you go at Colby.Corino, because apparently some girl got at Colby Corino before I did and don't even use it. And so I gotta do something about that. I'm not on the TikTok. I'm on the Pro Wrestling Tees though. You can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Colby Corino and you can buy some Colby Corino t-shirts or NWA merch too. Yes, gotta pump it all up.
Oh, hell yeah. Of anything that I have no idea how to use, it's TikTok. If there's anything in this planet that makes me feel old, it's how much my back hurts when I wake up, and that I can't use TikTok worth a damn. We'll just pass that off to everybody else on the Love Wrestling side of things. You can follow us on TikTok. You can follow us everywhere the podcasts are played, videos are viewed, or in my personal opinion, excellent content is created at Love Wrestling CA. If you want to tune into live professional wrestling on Twitch on the last Friday of every month, give us a follow at twitch.tv/Love Wrestling CA. LPW's final event of the year taking place November 25th. There's a ton of great wrestling coming up this month, folks. So make sure that you tune into it, whether it be in Edmonton, Alberta, or whether it be in New Orleans in just 3 days' time. Colby, thank you once again for the time, man. It's thoroughly appreciated. Best of luck to you in the upcoming match, and really can't wait to have you back on again.
Thank you for having me, Spencer.
Anytime, friends. Thank you for tuning in. For Colby Corino, I've been Spencer Love. We'll see you on the next one.